Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. Now, how many of you are preparing for your retirement? Here to talk us through it a little bit more is Anuj Ghosh from Guardian Wealth Management. Anuj, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Natalie.
Now, let's start from the beginning. At what age should you start preparing for retirement, and what are those basic first steps?
It's never too early to plan for retirement, really. Retirement is the biggest expense you'll ever have to fund for, so it's more expensive than buying your first house, for example, school fees, planning. It's going to cost a lot more than that, so it is important that you do start planning for it as soon as possible. The general rule of thumb is that you need to really allow at least 30 to 35 years to effectively plan for your retirement. That's how big an expense it actually is. So we usually say no later than 30, but as I said, it's really never too early to start. So if you take, for example, the day you first start work, okay, you're going to be earning an income, it always makes sense to start thinking at that point, well, okay, someday I'm going to have to stop work, so I should really start saving now for my retirement. Although most people will think, well, retirement's that far away, and they tend to put it off to a later date, and then it gets too late to start planning for it. So one of the things that we always encourage our clients is really to understand the importance of retiring or planning for retirement earlier rather than leaving it later, and the effects of what we call the cost of delay. Okay, so setting up retirement programs for our clients as early as possible is something that we try and encourage them to do. As I said, really it takes 30 to 35 years to plan, so if you're looking to retire early, for example, okay, you do really need to start planning for it maybe in your mid-20s, but as I said, no later than 30. If you were looking at putting away 15% of your gross income every year, it's going to take 35 years to actually achieve around about 2/3 of your final salary, which is what people consider to be a decent amount of income to retire on. So we always say, okay, allow 30 to 35 years, okay, and try and put away around 15% of your gross income for the day that you retire.
So basically, I should be preparing already.
You should be, yep.
You have a lot of organisations that offer occupational pensions, and a lot of people then think that's it, they're set up, there's no more that they need to do. Is that really the case, or are there more steps that you should be taking? And also, what about those that are self-employed?
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're absolutely right. People do tend to rely on their company or even the government to pay for their retirement, which, okay, it's good to be in an occupational scheme because the company that you work for in a lot of instances will fund it for you as well, so they'll match your contributions, which is always a good thing. However, you should never rely solely on your company to fund for your retirement. Especially these days, the way things are, okay, people don't stay in one company for 30 to 40 years anymore and retire on a maxed out pension. Also, with the ageing population, okay, company schemes are struggling to pay the benefits out to the people who are retiring. Also, there's not as many people working to fund those pensions now. So it is important that you set up your own separate retirement program that runs alongside any company schemes that you may have. And again, that's something that we work quite closely with our clients to set up investments that are more flexible, okay, to run alongside the company schemes that they have. And when we say flexible, we're talking about they're portable, so that you can move from one company to another, even different countries, and still maintain those contributions. That way you can then have the continuity in one retirement program that's going to grow to a substantial amount that's big enough to generate a decent income. But yeah, it's not a good idea to rely just on your company due to the fact that people do move around on a regular basis these days.
What impact does the current economic climate have on expats, for example, who are looking to save and invest for retirement?
Yeah, expats, they do have a different need to locals. So locals who stay in one country will more often have the government scheme to fall back on, even though it's not great these days, but they will have it. Expats, because they do move more often, they move from country to country. What historically has happened is that they've set up pensions in one country, then moved on to another country and had to stop that, and then start all over again. So they end up with small amounts of money here, there and everywhere, which don't really grow enough to give them a decent income. So again, what we do is we set up international retirement programs for expats to enable them to then be able to fund a substantial amount in one investment. That is going to give them a decent income when they actually retire. So the international market is an area that we do focus on a lot.
Anuj, thank you very much for your vital insight into a topic that does affect us all. Now, that brings us on to the Dukascopy question, whereby we ask our guests if they had $1 million to invest for 1 year, which asset class would they place it into? We've got your options today. We've got real estate, equity, bonds, gold, cash, and oil. So $1 million for 1 year. Anuj, where would you place it?
Just 1 year?
Just 1 year.
Right, I mean, having just talked about retirement, obviously we're talking 20 years, 30 years, so it would definitely be the equity market. Having, saying 1 year, I'd still hedge for equities, okay? The markets are still fairly low at the moment, depressed, so I think in the next year they will start to show some sign of recovery, so I'll go for equities still.
Anuj, thank you very much for your comments and for joining us in the studio today.
No problem, thank you very much.
That's all we've got time for, but stay tuned. We'll be bringing you plenty more exclusive interviews, so don't go away.